The following program was made possible thanks to the generous support of our Kickstarter backers.
Well, first Holmes was born, then he got fat, bald, and tired.
Sup, Holmes?
Beware, your host, Jonathan Holmes.
Hello, everybody.
That is my
Thank you
Twitter
so much
feed,
for being
actually.
on the
That's
show. Oh, what happened? Oh, that's okay. Kind of is. Well, you know. Whoa, did we have a RNC leak, DNC style leak of your Twitter messages? Oh, that sounds.
We're going out in style, guys.
So, and here you are. Well, just like in the last episode of Quantum Leap, where Sam Beckett's just went to a miner bar and hung around with coal miners, you're really getting it. It was a fine episode for fine people to watch. We're twisting it up for this last episode. Maybe you should just host it, Conrad Starr.
No, they can't hear me. They couldn't hear all of that shit that I was talking. Yeah. So they've just been hearing your side of the acknowledging, like the useless crap. This is
terrible.
going really well, guys.
That's okay. I enjoy
It's okay. We have a puppy now.
That makes all the difference in the world, but they still can't see that because I've got a problem that I'm fixing, and it will be fixed so fast. And I'm so sorry, guys. This is way
fun. Can they see me eating the sandwich?
No one's. They can hear you. They're hearing you.
They can hear me eating the
sandwich.
Well, I have
Eat that
to talk.
sandwich, Jonathan.
I need to tell them thank you.
Yeah. No.
Thank you for listening to this and putting up with that.
I feel like this is appropriate, just given the Destructoid legacy. Nothing ever works right, and somehow it still ends up working.
Well, it ends up being accepted by someone.
Yeah. There's nothing we can do about it now. It is what it is. That's the philosophy. Yeah.
So should we stop the stream and start it over?
No. Well.
There we go.
No. You know what? No. I think this is appropriate. I think this is very appropriate. And let's. Yeah. There you. Oh, God, it's still doing it. The following program was.
You got it?
Yeah,
I think you got it.
I think I got it. I just have to.
Get it?
Yeah. There we go. There. Oh, look at him eating a sandwich. Yeah.
Yay!
Yeah. You're eating a sandwich on camera. Looking good.
That's great. I'm excited. Welcome, everybody, to the final episode of SUP Holmes, a show that's been running since 2012, if I remember correctly. And so many people we have met and would have loved to invite back to the show for a final episode. But instead, we decided to focus just on Hamza Aziz.
Hello.
Who helped come up with the idea for the show,
Well,
sort of, back in 2012. I can't remember, Hamza. Did you have any ideas about SUP Holmes?
I think the only idea I had was that, hey, your last name's like that slang term when people are like, hey, what's up, Holmes? I'm like, we should make that into a shirt or something. And that's kind of the genesis of the idea. I was just making a joke based on your name, making a pun, and figured, hey, let's just monetize it somehow. And we never did. But you, good sir, came up with the show in general.
Is that what it did? It's all such a blur. It was all late night emails and half-brained, half-cocked, hair-brained schemes. It's a very beautiful dog.
This is Peppers.
Oh, hi, Peppers.
Peppers Scoville. This is Max Scoville's dog. I'm watching him.
Oh, are you in Max Scoville's house right now?
I am in his house right now.
Oh, cool.
It's just me and the dog, and he's bored.
All right, there you go. Oh, what a wonderful full circle world we're in, because it was hanging out with you and Max and John Carnage and Pico Mouse and Nero and Venom, a man named Venom, and Tara Long. Tara Long. When we were starting this whole live streaming thing, Destructoid, all those years ago, and we had no idea. At least I had no idea that it was ever going to get huge. I think John Carnage did.
Yeah, I think only Carnage saw the vision that was live streaming, and he made it. And he jumped over to Twitch the second he got a good chance to do it, and he's still there running the show and doing all these cool things. We were part of his crazy E3 late night stream show he did this year.
Oh, cool.
On Sunday night, like starting at 7 p.m. until like the next morning, like till like 9 a.m. He had a bunch of game developers on. Me and David Martinez from Raw Fury Games, we came on to the show to show off Goner, which I'm actually wearing a shirt of right now.
Oh, wow. Yeah, the creator of Goner, we call him Ditto. His first name is Matt. He was on the show back when he was at Stugan, and he was coming up with ideas for a very different game at that time, but also a Goner sort of percolating away. So he was a multitasking prototyper. The other game he was working on, I don't know if you ever saw it, it was about like going to planets and helping things grow. And I was like, oh, that sounds so nice. He's like, yeah, all I do is make games where you shoot people. I'm going to stop that. I'm going to do something about nature and growth. And now it's just constant killing and skulls, which is fun.
Yeah.
But through branching out, he found skills that he's now brought back to Goner. Speaking of you, Hamza, you have branched out in so many different directions and now brought all your skills to Raw Fury, who is publishing Goner. Is that right?
That is correct, yes.
Weird life.
It really is a weird life. I helped start Destructoid, this media bastard of gaming content, and did that for almost 10 years. And now since March, the last day of GDC, I joined Raw Fury Games, and
wow,
it feels like I've been there a year already. There's been so much that I've done, so much that I'm learning. I feel like when you're on the outside of game development, you don't really quite grasp how complicated it could be. And I'm not just talking about the actual creation of the game. Sure, that's going to be hard in and of itself. But then when you factor in the business of games and try to wrap it into that package, there's a lot of moving wheels that are dumb. It don't make sense, but we just put up with it because it's been like that forever.
Huh. Are you talking about stuff like getting certification and
yeah, so we're in the middle of getting cert for Kingdom, because we're releasing it on Xbox One in the coming weeks. So going through that whole process, but then on top of that, so my title at Raw Fury Games is Chief Propaganda Officer. We don't give a shit about titles, but what that translates to basically is I am running our community and brand stuff. But just like Destructoid, where we would all put on many hats, I am also taking on as much as I can to help out the team. So in this particular case, one of the hats I've taken on is being our ratings guy. So dealing with ESRB, PEGI, the Australian certifications, USK, which is the German certifications. There's a lot of certifications or rating boards out there, right?
Yeah, and Europe, I've heard, is more expensive, more strict, and more difficult in general. So to take on Europe is like a job in and of itself.
Actually, you bring up a good point there. I'm taking care of all this for us, and I have a good grasp of it now that I've gone through it, and I can do it with, as a breeze next time, until we have to do it for an M-rated game, which is a whole different beast. But I was talking with a buddy who, I don't want to say what company, they're a major studio, and he was telling me that they have 4 people dedicated to ratings on the team, because they release so many games and so many versions of the games that they just have 4 full-time people focused on ratings. And it's not a fun process. It's really dumb and annoying, but we put up with it for some reason, some arbitrary reason, because we don't really, it was important back in the 90s, during the whole Mortal Kombat trials and everything, but it doesn't really make sense anymore, especially given the fact that Steam does not give a shit about ratings. We don't have to do anything for Steam. I mean, even, what was that really horrible game that came out this year? And I don't mean horrible because it was bad, controversial bad. It was just a bad game. Oh, Hatred. Remember?
Was that this year or last year?
It was last year.
Yeah, close enough. It's been a blur.
Yeah, it got censored for like a minute, or Steam took it down, but then they put it right back up because they don't want to, outside of, I guess, I don't know, graphic sexual violence or probably religious themes, I don't think Steam cares.
Yeah,
I want to say. But yeah, in general, they don't give a shit about ratings, but we have to go through the hoops for Nintendo and Xbox and Sony and all these other things, and it just doesn't really make sense anymore. At least as far as I'm concerned.
Well, sure. And you've been in this industry in some form or another for how long now?
If you want to count when I was working at a game store,
yeah.
So way before Destructoid, way before Raw Fury, my dad and uncle opened up a game store, like the game stops, but it was like a mom and pop version of it. So we had everything, and I was doing that since the age of 14, and I was probably illegal with child labor laws and everything. But I think every immigrant, especially Asian child, will understand that you kind of just have to do it. Your family wants you to do something, especially as far as job, helping them out, you got no choice. And it's not like I was resistant against it, but it was fun. I got to work retail for like 10 years, basically doing all that. And then towards the tail end of that, I found Destructoid and moved over to there.
Family video game store. It's kind of a new thing. At least new to me. I've known of maybe one other one, and that was a family video game and pornography store. And that one didn't last as long as somebody who was on my old show talking to women about video games. Actually, I asked her if she wanted to be on it, and she was like, "Yeah, I've got kind of mixed feelings about video games." I'm like, "How come?" She's like, "My dad ran a porn and video game store selling like Commodore 64 and like 70s pornography, long dong silver type stuff."
Okay.
So it gives me a little bit of a weird vibe. I'm like, oh, well, you give it a shot. If you don't like it, we won't use it. And she ended up liking it fine. So, yeah, back to you though, Hamza. Is your family really passionate about video games in general, or was it something that?
Oh no! Oh god, no! They didn't give a shit. They just thought there was money in it, and so they opened up the store. My dad couldn't play games for shit. He just saw how into it I was, and a friend of our family opened up their own version of what we ended up opening as kind of like a partnership chain kind of deal. And yeah, he saw there was good money in it, and there was good money in it because EB Games at the time it was known wasn't as widely expanded. Like in every mall, every city almost at the time, and the city we opened it up in, there was nothing like that for miles around. Towards the end of the my family owning the business, one finally did open up in town, and that's kind of when that and the combination of just how easy it became to sell stuff on the internet, on eBay and everything.
Sure. Yeah, retail in general has gone down, especially specialty retail. So you've been peppers. You've been a part of, in a way, the arc of the rise and now fall, or at least falling retail video game market as it's been eaten away by big box stores like Target and also online. And you're also part of this cresting wave of video game blogs. Some would say is on its way down. I mean, we've seen Joystick close. We've seen, I think it was a little longer ago, but One Up closed. And a lot of them have closed down. Destructoid has stayed afloat due to the right. Am I right? This way? Oh. Keep leaning in. Hi. Sure, I'll do that. Now it's down. So I was rambling on with my longtime friend, Hamza Aziz, about how he's been a part of these cresting waves and whether he's consciously tried to ride the waves or whether it hasn't mattered to him whether it's going to be a success or a failure. He just jumps in, or some combination of the two.
Well, actually, until you just brought it up, I never perceived it that way, where I was riding those waves with the game store and now, and then Destructoid and everything. It's a funny parallel.
Yeah, I think it might. I don't imagine you did it consciously, and it's not like when you left Destructoid, I never got the sense from you that it was because you were like, oh, this site's going downhill. Our numbers were good, as I recall, and continued to get better after that, which was neat, though not because you left. I'm not making that parallel at all. We just had a really good E3, like the brief time I was editor in chief. I'm not sure why it went so well. Might be just because there was great games announced that year. So we're kind of slave to that at Destructoid. If games are exciting to people, then our numbers are good. And if games are people are getting bored of them, then all of a sudden our numbers are not so good, no matter how hard we work. So you after 10 years of Destructoid, then got into the side of publishing and development that you're in now, which I see as definitely being on the rise. These indie publishers whom are doing a lot of the work that your average developer just doesn't want to do. They don't want to deal with ratings boards. They don't want to like have to figure out how to design a video game and a t-shirt. And some of them do, but a lot of them don't want to have to cope with all of those decisions and all the risks that come along with them. It's already a big enough risk to make a video game, but to then like have to be a businessman on top of that, very, very scary. So there's definitely a huge market for these indie publishers, and to see Raw Fury taking off the way that they are, it's really exciting. So yeah, but it was never a conscious decision, you're saying, to...
No, I think, so now I'm actually really thinking about it. When I left the game store, which I think actually still was around, so we sold it off to someone else. It's called Brentwood Game Exchange, if anyone in the, East Bay area is curious, in California. When I was leaving Raw Fury Games, or I'm sorry, I'm getting all the things confused.
I know, so many things. When you're leaving the store.
Game Exchange, it was more that I was just fucking bored of it. I was doing that for so long that I was sick of doing retail, I was sick of being behind the counter. And at the same time, it was when I really discovered Destructoid and found like this passion I never knew existed, where it was like, I get to talk about video games and people, strangers on the internet are reading about it. This is kind of cool. So I was actually doing Destructoid stuff while in the store, at the game store and everything. And it got to the point where, my uncle was noticing like, you're not doing your work anymore. I'm like, yeah, I am. Oh, wait, no, all I'm doing is Destructoid work and I should be, so I just turned into boredom in that sense. And I guess kind of, not the exact same way with Destructoid, but more in that, like, I feel like I reached a peak, like I reached my level cap of everything I could accomplish at Detroit. And God, I think it was like a year or two before I finally left, when I had dinner with you and your wife in Boston, where I was telling you, I'm thinking about leaving. It took me 2 years to finally pull the trigger and leave.
I remember that. We went to Sportello, a hopefully nice restaurant. Hopefully you liked it.
Yeah.
And I had seen so much potential in you. We lived together briefly in San Francisco. And like wherever we went, if there was somebody who'd ever like worked even at the lowest level of video game development or the highest level, they saw you, they'd be like, "Sup, Hamza? What's your problem? I love you." Like you instilled this like aggressive passion in people wherever you went. And I was like, this guy could be, not that Destructoid wasn't worthwhile or big or profitable or any of those things, but the amount you inspired in people in this industry in general, I was like, this guy could be at the top of a really huge company one of these days. But you never really seemed to see it. You were so used to it. Seemed like that you took it for granted. It was just the world you were embedded in because you'd been in it for so long. But it was a very special thing that you had and still have with your place in this industry and your capacity in this industry. It's pretty neat.
Oh my God, Holmes!
It's all true, Hamza. I would go to parties all the time and be like, "Yeah, I'm just here for the free cheese. We're really poor right now." And they'd be like, "Where's Hamza though?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm hosting the Destructoid show right now." They're like, "Cool, but where's Hamza?" I want to like punch him in the face and kiss him at the same time because he's the best worst. I love hate him. Where's that Hamza? And I'm sure that still goes on today. So what do you think of where video game blogs are at now that you're on the other side of it? And you've got to figure out like, well, what's our community integration going to be? What's our press integrating with the community? What's our outreach going to be? Are you thinking like, yeah, we have to get on Kotaku right away? Or are you thinking we need to stream right away? Or do you have to do everything all the time? Or if not, how do you end up prioritizing?
So it's something I was hearing shortly before I was leaving Detroit, and I'm actually seeing it firsthand now. David Martinez, he does our marketing, and he also does our he's also our point guy when it comes to content creators, streamers, Twitch people, YouTubers, whatever. And the model there these days, and I don't think it's that big of a secret, is that gaming companies don't really, media is not the number one priority anymore. It's the content creators. So, we still want to service outlets like Kotaku, Destructoid, and everyone else. But what I think it is now is that we're mainly servicing the media companies now because the content creators go to blogs like Destructoid, see what's hot, see what's interesting, cool, and then potentially they will want to cover it. So it's more for their benefit more so than anything else. I mean, getting review scores is nice and everything, and getting content out there, of course, is great in general. But I mean, you see it more with the AAA companies, where Capcom or Activision, Bungie, whoever, they don't really need media sites anymore. They haven't needed them for a while now. With the rise of YouTube, where they could do their own streams, they have Twitter and Facebook, and people are there more so than websites in general.
Sure. You do a tweet. I can't believe the language we have these days. Internet language, tweet. So yeah, but a big company who already has 300 million followers, I don't know if they have that many these days, but a whole bunch. Nintendo will do a tweet, and that'll get more views than a Destructoid posted. So the game publishers have their own media now through social media. They don't need a blog to message. They can just message directly to people, but they still want that personality that can only come from someone whom is not on the company payroll. And I think that's who Destructoid once was to people, and still is to some. We were seen as like, we're just like you. We've got goofy usernames, and we're going to like tell jokes, and maybe they'll be bad jokes, but we're going to at least throw them out there because we want this to be fun. This isn't like a job to us. This is what we do for our passion. That was the air that the site had for a long time, still has to a degree, but I've been told by many people that we're now seen by people who are only a couple years older than Destructoid, people who have known about Destructoid for as long as they've known about the internet. They were 2 when Destructoid started. Now they're 12, so they got on the internet when they were like 4, and there's just always been this like establishment video game blog that they know gets invited to E3, and they know gets to get review copies of games. We're not like the everymen to them anymore. We're grown-ups.
You're probably seen as part of the machine.
Yeah, and of course, it's very exciting for folks to say, "Oh, well, the Destructoid's probably on the take." I will never forget the first time I noticed when people really got passionate about that idea. I think we gave a Worms game like a 7 or 7.5, and somebody was like, "Yeah, they're paid off." Some of in Worms t-shirts and hats. So they really believed it. Yeah. They thought that we altered our review score based on Worms t-shirts. I want to say this was like 2011 when I noticed there was really this generational shift where folks wanted to think of the games media as just that, as a media presence and not an extension of their own presence. They didn't see Destructoid as, oh, you're just like me. They saw it as we're the grown-ups, they're the kids, and the YouTubers were their fellow kids, to brandish a meme at you a little bit. We were seen as the Steve Buscemi holding the skateboard.
Oh, it's horrible.
Yeah, it's true. And YouTubers were seen as the legitimate ones, even though YouTubers are the ones who are, from what I've learned anyway, more and more recently, they're getting paid off kind of a lot sometimes, and they certainly are getting big yearly salaries compared to Destructoid, PewDiePie making millions and whatnot. So yeah, I didn't think that would ever happen when I was there with you in the house, making our cheap eggs in the morning. I mean, we were living in a beautiful house, but we were not made of money. I was going to Sony parties for the free cheese, for sure.
Yeah, we've always had this perception that I think we're better off than we really were. And I mean, part of that was done purposely, so we're always waving our dicks around like we're hot shit in the room, right? Because we needed to do that to drum up like interest. And the fact is, like, Destructoid, the first like major publicity for Destructoid was that we scammed our way into E3 that first year in 2006, and it's been like that ever since. Where we're just, I'm not trying to say that Destructoid never. I keep saying we.
No,
That's
it's
still going to be forever.
Well, I mean, come on. Destructoid would not be what it is if it didn't have your DNA like written in it at this point. It is just as much your baby as anyone's. So I think that's fair.
The point I'm trying to make there is, like, I mean, Destructoid is legitimate. It's a tier 1 outlet. It's it's part of the judging circuit and everything. And that's a huge deal in the games media field. But like you're saying, when we're all living together and everything, we were getting by just barely.
Yeah.
Like I was when we made that move in San Francisco in 2010, I was dipping into savings to make that work. And eventually it did work to a point where we were all able to do it comfortably enough. But like, we were always trying to hustle to figure out how to make the business work. When we did that move in 2010 to San Francisco and you came out to move in with us and everything, it was done with the intention, thinking that, oh man, if we get this show on, what were they called at the time? Revision 3, before they got bought by Discovery. They showed us some exuberant numbers, like, 6-figure numbers that we would be pulling in when we did the Destructoid show and everything. And you remember this better than any of us. We got the first check. How much was that first check?
I don't think I've ever quoted the number out of like politeness to.
Fuck them.
It was in the hundreds. And it was for, I think it was 3 months worth of work.
Yeah.
And I think it was also for Tara and I to split.
Yeah.
So that was a big part of why I moved back to Massachusetts and got my old day job back, where I had health insurance and like enough money to pay for me and my wife to live comfortably. And now my wife and I and a dog and a cat and a baby, which is part of why SUP Holmes is being retired, because it's not a financial thing. It's every Sunday afternoon, you're going to just talk to strangers on the internet, Dad. So like take me to a park. Like my son's turning 1 next month. I've got to like get in the habit and get in the mode of focusing on him on my time off, as opposed to doing fun shows like this. So I'm hoping we'll be able to come up with some kind of compromise where we can edit together a show that'll be more well produced than SUP Holmes was, once a month, that will only take about maybe a fourth of the time. But you'll get less show, but you'll get hopefully more focused show. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, just wanted people to know that. But yes, I sometimes wonder, Hamza, because hindsight is 2020.
Oh God,
if we had started wearing our underdog everyman image on our sleeve a little bit more, because we did it with our sense of humor. We did it with our like defiance of social norms and taking risks creatively, allowing Anthony Birch to make a show with him and his sister just in their bedroom, pretending to be video game characters, and letting Jim Sterling film a show. Jimquisition was like started off in his kitchen, I think, with terrible sound quality. We used to let people, and still do, let people's creative inspiration run wild and worry about the production values later. Otherwise, I wouldn't have this show either. But when it came to whether we were seen as like legitimate or just like an underground thing, we sometimes erred on the side of legitimate. And I sometimes wonder these days whether we would have been better off like showing people how poor and strange we were behind the scenes as well. Maybe not to build up to where we got to, because I don't think we would have built up to the huge site Destructoid is now if it weren't for the fact that we maintained legitimacy, a lot of that under Nick Chester, who where is Nick now?
Nick is over at Epic. He's the PR lead on Paragon.
Oh, cool. And before that, he was at Harmonix, and before that, he was at Destructoid, if I remember correctly. Yeah. Nick was another one who, but he was like so professional.
But and Nick's story too, like he's like running the shit now over at Epic. But like when he was doing Destructoid stuff, like in the very beginning, do you know what his day job was?
Did he also work at a game store?
No, he worked at a mattress store. he was hustling it at a mattress store, and whenever he had a chance to do Destructoid work, he would sneak off and do Destructoid work until eventually it worked out full time. But then, kind of a similar situation to you, he got a kid and was like, all right, well, games media doesn't pay. I need to take care of my family. And he moved on. And, we're talking about this whole perception of a reality and everything. I think a lot about this too, hindsight wise, about like what could have been like the catalyst for Detroit to just not just gone to the next level. And around the time we were talking about and discussing doing more video stuff, because we were seeing what was happening in the video space before it was actually really taken off. We saw that YouTube was going to be the next big thing. We need to figure out our strategy for that, how to make that work with what we're doing. And you know who fucking nailed it? At the same time we were thinking about it, Giant Bomb.
Oh yeah, they did, didn't they?
Yeah, Giant Bomb fucking nailed it. And look at them now. They're probably not the biggest traffic getters, but that doesn't matter. They have such a loyal fan base that tune in constantly for anything they do. It's not even when they're just sitting around talking about games or talking about nothing that has anything to do with games. They're still getting those engaged people to come through partly because they're entertaining people, but also because most of them have been there for the longest time. And I feel like if we had the kind of funding that Giant Bomb did around the same time, like that would have been our catalyst. That would have been our key. I think our general approach of never being bought out, just being our own entity, never selling out, just being this indie thing was great, but it also kind of made us reach a certain cap in the ceiling, and
I do.
Never got beyond that.
Who did Giant Bomb get bought by? Did they get bought by Ziff Davis, who owned GameStop, who fired Gertzman in the first place?
Yeah, it was CBS that bought them.
CBS. Okay.
Yeah. So they were owned by Whiskey Media. They were started by Whiskey Media. They got the funding by them and everything, and they did their thing. And then Whiskey flipped it to CBS. And it's that whole cycle of once upon a time he was fired by CBS because of a review supposedly over Kane Lynch. But those people have long since left CBS probably.
Sure.
I think at the time, and it's whatever. It's at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. They got paid. And they're still doing what they get to do. They're happy doing it, and they're probably being way more successful than GameSpot is right now. They're struggling.
Yeah, because they are establishment, and I think there's a real venom for that. There's people who like desperately want think pieces and like in-depth artisanal analysis of video games. There's like 200 of them total.
I think there's actually there's a bigger audience for that. It's just they don't want to read it.
Oh,
they would rather watch someone do it. And there's someone like Super Bunny Hop on YouTube. He does these great analytical pieces on games and stuff, but he's doing it with a visual medium. And he also has a really nice voice, but he's doing that on top of having like entertaining stuff happening in your face. And that's the crux of it. You just need something that's entertaining your eyes as well as your ears at the same time. Whereas, we would write great features. Polygon writes great features, but I'm not going to fucking sit around for 10 to 15 minutes reading through all that.
Yeah, I don't remember podcasts being quite as big as they are now back in 2010 or 2009. Maybe I just missed it. It wouldn't be the first time, but
sorry if I'm cussing too much, man.
Oh no, I enjoy a good cuss. Yeah, you're doing fantastic. With Giant Bomb, I always felt like if they hadn't started by defying the man, the establishment, like I almost felt like that was a little bit of the start of the resentment that Destructoid later got some of too. Like, oh, you guys are all paid off for that Worms money. I can't believe any of your reviews. Because Gertzman defied that and started his own thing that was like truly of the people, and started a medium that was truly of the people with these ridiculous quick looks that are like an hour and a half long. I was talking to someone at Giant Bomb about that the other day, whether it was a joke or not, and they handled it perfectly. They're like, they wanted it to remain a joke that they didn't say whether it was a joke or not. Like, are they being ironic, or do they really think that's a quick look? They knew not to play into the conflict around it and just focus on the fun of it, which I thought was really smart. And they are kind of a drama-free site. That's another thing people can't stand these days, in video game blogs is so many people go to a game blog or go to a YouTube video or a podcast because they're like, my life is stressful. People are fighting with each other. I don't know where things are going. I feel totally powerless. I just want to go to a place where people are like all share a love of a thing and are maybe snarky at worst, but nice to each other. Then you go to a game blog and there's all this anger and conflict and death threats and stuff. And people are like, I'm just not going to do it.
I see that a lot in Jed's articles.
Oh, yeah, Jed Whittaker, who at one point was being called by a lot of Destructoid readers as like, oh, he's the next Jim Sterling. He's going to be like our irreverent, fun guy. And then somehow he inspired tons of hate, so much hatred, and a lot of affection as well. I personally don't see that as working for someone who wants to be in this industry for a while. I've written some stuff that made people way more mad than I thought it would, like about tripping in Smash Brothers and stuff like that.
You always bring that up.
I know. It's because it still gets brought up to me a good amount. But that was like my big pivotal moment of like, wow, people can really get mad at you about your tone
in a fucking video game.
Well, it was, that's kind of you, but it was not that. It was, and we've talked about this before. I remember it was in the basement of Destructoid at one point, or the first floor at least. And I was like, how's it going on Destructoid, Hamza? And you're like, pretty good. People fucking hate you, though. I'm like, what? Why do they hate me? And they're like, you're passive aggressive. I'm like, I am? I didn't know. Am I passive aggressive? And you're like, I don't know. I guess they think so. And I'm like, how am I going to fix this? But it was true. In my tone, I think I was trying so hard to not use inflammatory language and make people angry that if I was angry, I would do it in a way that I thought was softening it and making it like, well, we'll avoid drama with this. But it hurt people all the more. Like they get so pissed off about a sentence like, so do you really think this is a good game? Or are you just, blah, blah, blah. There's some light goof in my mind. Because I'm big on talking and controlling my tone with my vocals and my face. You can't do that with text.
No, you can't.
Screw it up. Yeah.
No, and I think, at least for me, like I was very adamant about getting you in front of the camera as much as possible. Because when you're actually in front of the camera, you yourself, you're just very lovely, engaging human. It's very like I actually want to just, even if you just end up talking about like, I don't know, tripping in Smash Bros for 2 hours on the camera, I want to watch because, and you see this with all the videos you've done with SUP Holmes, especially, you have this very special ability to bring out such depth and I don't know, things people would never usually talk about probably. Yeah, you just have this way with people where you just make them feel very comfortable and they want to open up. That's very hard to do, especially in this business, because a lot of times it's like, well, we can't talk about that right now because it's not part of our PR strategy. We have to tell you about this one fucking dumb mechanic where you jump on a wall in this very elegant way, and it just, I don't know. That was part of the reason I started like wanting to leave. There's many reasons why I wanted to leave, where I felt it was time for me to get out of there, and part of it was also kind of seeing how repetitive everything is every year. Like, not to bring up Assassin's Creed and paint it as a target, but it's a very good example of like, yep, here's a new Assassin's Creed. We're launching in March. First hands-on at E3, full hands-on at Gamescom. Here's a review session in October. Here's a regular PR blast. So it was actually Call of Duty Advanced Warfare. We got the heads up on that. Like, we got the advance on a trailer by individuals that should not have had it. And I remember it was very late in the evening, and it was me, Dale, and Jordan, and we were going back and forth, like, should we leak this? Should we not leak this? Like, if we leaked it, if we got it out there and through official Destructoid channels, we knew exactly what would happen, and that would taint our relationship with Activision. We saw that coming, but the on the other hand, it was like, well, if we get this out there right now before they officially release it in a couple of days during the basketball game or whatever their strategy was for that, usually they reveal their games during a sports tournament, to appeal to the mass audiences out there. My thinking was that, well, if we release this right now, we will get more traffic on it than we would have cumulatively if we just follow along with their basic PR strategy of here's a new trailer, here's some new screenshots. So it was like that, like we were weighing the options, and we did it. And it did hurt our relationship for a year until the next one when everything reset and we're back on the PR cycle with Activision.
Huh. So it
it's
hurt the relationship in an emotional way, or just in a like cold, logical, we will not send you PR?
Cold logical, more or less. It was like,
Uh-huh.
well, you're not part of our campaign anymore. We're not gonna fly you around. We're not gonna have you do the demos or whatever. And like, we're like, okay, well, we'll just buy the game, and it's not a big deal. At the end of the day, it's not a big deal. You're gonna release the trailers on YouTube anyways. We'll just get the trailer once we see it and put it up and go forward from there. I don't know what we're talking about right now, but
Oh no, I'm enjoying it. It speaks to how when you say cold, logical, after a while, for me anyway, and I still enjoy writing about video games. Or wrote about video games earlier today for
oh, that's what we're talking about.
Write about for Nintendo Force magazine. I was just going back and reading some old issues from 2014 and sad about how I was worse at writing then. But still fun to look back on that. But after a while, it can, when it's your full-time job.
Yeah.
I'm like, am I going to write the best news post ever today? Or am I only at my very best going to be as good as I was the year before? Is this Assassin's Creed review going to be like the most amazing Assassin's Creed review ever written? Or is it going to be kind of like the one I did last year? Oh God, another preview. I've done so many of these. I'm not arcing up anymore. At best, I'm maintaining, and that's after you've gotten good. And you, in my opinion, very, very good, which is why you reached the peak of how high someone can go at Destructoid. But after a while, you got to question, like, am I growing anymore? And if the answer is no, then
that was a big part of it. And I think what really instilled the idea for me too, because for a while there, I never imagined leaving Destructoid. I thought this was gonna be the rest of my life. You know,
like 50, 60 years old.
Yeah, sure.
Writing about Assassin's Creed.
Assassin's Creed 88. It got to we had those opportunities to get Mr. Destructoid into a bunch of video games, right? Zen pinball games, Missplosion Man, Rascals, a ton of games. And there was a few specific games where I got to make that happen myself. Like I initiated the idea. I helped make sure that the model and everything looked appropriate. I helped with the announcing the news and everything. And every time I did that, it filled me with so much more satisfaction than just writing an opinion piece or review, whatever. Like, and it basically amounts to this line someone said to me once, a long time ago, that's kind of just stuck in my head, which was like, I think the person I was talking to had just left Destructoid as well, or some media website, and went over to the other side. And the line he said was like, do you want to respond to the news for the rest of your life, or do you want to help make the news? And that's every time I did that with Destructoid, getting the character in games, you know, it's not like earth-shattering news, but it's awesome news to the community we have and the fan base we have for Destructoid and the respective games. And every time I did that, I was like, fuck, this is awesome. You know, I'm not necessarily looking for the credit for it, everything. It's just more personal satisfaction. I get to help create something. And now I get to do that on a regular basis at Raw Fury. One of the things I never imagined I was actually going to get to do when I joined this company was that we all have equal say in the games we want to bring on under our label that we will help publish. So if one of us isn't into it, we're not going to do it. And I never imagined that was going to be part of my, you know, my whole job thing. And we get a lot of requests. There's a lot of games out there. And to what you were saying earlier about how the rise of these indie publishers, these micro publishers are happening, a lot of that is because there's too many games, man. It's easier than ever to make a game now. You know, Unity, Unreal, and all these other engines are free for the most part to a degree to get and start doing stuff and utilize their power. And there's no more gates when it comes to getting a game on Steam for the most part. And Xbox and I think Sony and I think Nintendo don't charge an exuberant amount anymore, at least for indies, to get their games on their platforms. So now the problem is like, well, cool, anyone can make a free game now, or not free game, but anyone can make a game now. But how do you get that game out there? Just because you made a really awesome game, it's very, very rare to have an Undertale situation where that game was phenomenal, right? I adore that game. When I left Detroit, I didn't touch a game for the months at a time
Mm-hmm.
because I got sick of playing games. Even it wasn't until Undertale I was like, oh right, this is why I love video games.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the reason I actually finally played it wasn't because of a review or a preview or whatever. It's just because everyone in their fan base or community was talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
So but and that's great for them, but it's very rare for that to happen for everyone because there's just too much stuff out there. And that's where a publisher like us or Devolver Digital, who led the way for this, or a handful of them, are vital in that situation. It's not so much to deal with, you were talking about how like they don't want to make the business decisions or anything. It's more that like they don't know how to get their game out there and they need help with that. And for us, it's like, we will do what we can to make this happen. We will help you with the business aspects and everything. We'll do everything except for develop the game. This is your project. You make your vision happen, and we will assist you in every way possible. And the first game we released, Kingdom, it was quite successful. Like within the first 24 hours of its release, it recouped its costs, right?
Wow. Awesome.
And we've been steadily updating that game since its launch last year, and we're about to release a new expansion called Kingdom New Lands. It's gonna add a ton of new content, and it's gonna be free content for anyone who's already bought the game. And the only reason a lot of this is happening is because we were able to help Thomas, the developer, to do all the things he wanted to do. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I'm pretty sure that like he wouldn't have gone this far without our help.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to do anything for him, whether it's like checking on the Steam community or doing the dumb ratings process or anything like that, helping with merchandise, it's just very fulfilling to me.
Awesome.
And
that is so good.
Like, no one's going to know that. No one in the community is going to care or whatever. But me personally, fuck, that's really cool to me.
That's so great, Hamza. I feel so good about it. I've heard that Steam has an average of 6 to 7 games coming out on it a day.
I forgot what his Twitter handle is, but I follow this guy on Twitter who does nothing but gaming analytics.
Oh yeah, it's not Steam Spy, it's somebody else.
It's somebody else, but similar to Steam Spy, like he does everything. He sees the stuff in China, he sees the stuff in America, the console sales, the retail sales, and everything. Right? I could link that to you later. But he shared a chart this past week or the last week before, where there's been more games released so far this year than all of last year combined.
Really? And it's only July?
It's July. There's so much. This isn't even counting the mobile space, which is just like a minefield of garbage out there.
Sure.
Right?
And then sudden good stuff that gets swept up in that sea of garbage.
Yeah, exactly. So how do you see all that? And that's where someone like us comes in to help people see it.
The more I'm thinking about it, the Destructoid community built Destructoid, the media entity, and you were community manager for a long time. And a lot of what the community was about and still is about is genuine connection, player to player, which has blown up big since Destructoid started in 2016. And you were, when did you start a community manager? It was like 2000.
So I started in 2006. I was just writing stuff, and then in 2007 or 2007 was when I became community manager, which was it's kind of a funny story in that I was just looking at the front page one day and going through our stories, and then I looked at the right little hand side where it showed our names and our job titles. And one day my job title changed from associate editor to community manager. So I go to Nero, and I think Colette too. I'm like, hey, what is this title? What does this mean? I don't get it. And it was basically a reflection of what I was doing at the time, which was like engaging with our audience heavily in the forums and the blogs and everything else, whatever else we had. I was just naturally doing it. I wasn't doing it as like because I was thinking of a job. I didn't even know that was a job at the time, right? It was just becoming something around that year. I was just doing it as a byproduct of thinking like, man, we have such an engaged audience. We should do more with them. I should get in there and talk with them as I'm doing my regular work. And I guess Nero saw what I was doing. I was like, all right, well, I guess you're our community manager. And he just neglected to tell me about it. So yeah, I was doing community management for, I think, until 2010. And then I started doing more half community and half like outward facing outreach to, you know, game companies and stuff. Because when we moved to San Francisco, it's kind of when Destructoid really blew up because we were in the thick of it.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to that, the company was in Miami. There's nothing happening in Miami.
Mm-hmm.
But when we went to San Francisco, every week, you, me, other people from the team were always going to some kind of gaming event in the city, covering the stuff and meeting people and making the connections. And but to your point of me being a community manager, you were...
Yeah, I was going towards the idea that what people want is curation. If they've got 7 games a day coming out, they're like, who's going to curate this for me? And what they want is their friends to curate that for them. And Destructoid, the community, it's basically friends and family. Those are the people that, and it's true to this day, there's tons of people who say, I go to Destructoid and I look at the front page and I think, bunch of shills. And then I go to the community part, and that's where I find out what's real from people who have no motivation other than they love the community too. And I think Destructoid wouldn't have that community. And in my opinion, Destructoid still has, other than Giant Bomb, and we came first, so you're welcome, Giant Bomb, for paving the way, showing that community is something you really need in a game blog.
Yeah, it really is. And you saw that happen with everyone else almost too, like IGN and 1UP and whoever else. Like they started embracing that stuff more after we paved the way. Because up until that point, there was always this, I think what really drew people to us was that all the other websites were this attitude of like, yeah, we're the fucking hot shit game journals and you are the plebes down over there. And for us, it was like, no. We're in this together. We're not a thing without you guys. And you guys don't have this avenue without us, so let's just do this together.
Yeah, I was so dumb. Part of my problem is I'm old. And I always just assumed that everyone always felt good about each other. And I forgot about class distinctions because I'm like, I've been out of high school for like 20 years. So I forgot all about cliques by the time I was in a managerial position as Destructoid. I'm like, oh, everyone will just treat me like I'm just another community blogger. Sure, it says editor-in-chief. What does that even mean? Nobody knows that. But I would, this goes back to the passive-aggressive thing. If I were writing the way I was writing as a community blogger, I don't think people would have thought I was being passive-aggressive, maybe just like bad at writing or not funny. But when somebody with authority comes across like they think they're better than their readers, even in tiny ways, it's very different than a reader coming off like they think they're better than, you're another average guy.
I think you have to go to the very extreme, and Jim Sterling is a great example of that. He has that persona of like, he is, thank God for me, is this damn catchphrase, right? But I remember the first time I met him, I was actually kind of intimidated before I met him, right? Where was it? I want to say, I think we met at the airport when we're all on our way to Cancun to celebrate our 3rd-year anniversary for Destructoid. And I met him, and he was just, oh yeah, that's where I did meet him, because we shared a room there, and he was just the sweetest, like, most humble person, and it threw me off. And I think that kind of that attitude for Destructoid kind of went for everyone, because we all act, for the most part, we all kind of had this bigger act than what our reality was. And I fucking was an arrogant asshole.
Yeah, I don't think so. And I think there were the almost unanimous positive response that you elicited in people, and as does Jim. Like, Jim has gotten so big now that people go after him the way they would in the Old West. You'd go after the sharpest gun in the West. People want to take down Jim Sterling because they'll feel like it's a bragging point if they like win an argument against him, and he'll just make fun of you and ignore you. But Jim made people feel good about themselves by going so over the top with the act that it was fun and funny, and you felt like you could join with him on his act. Whereas the stuff I've done that I'm talking about a lot about self-regret for some reason.
It's your final episode.
I know, I should be celebrating. Yay, me. But I'm thinking, man, if I had only found ways to let people who are younger than me join with me a little bit more with a different tone, with a Jim-like tone, that would have been good. But it wouldn't have been me either. I can't fake it. I'm just going to fake it. That's never good either.
I don't think the way Jim does it, I think it's a natural extension of him. It is an act to a degree.
Well,
but it's
I feel like it's a setting he puts himself on. Like, you can't. The improv he does, I've done quite a. We were on Podtoid with him. He wasn't like rehearsing. He would just
No.
all of a sudden turn himself to that setting,
yeah.
and the stuff naturally came out from somewhere.
Yeah, from the dark aspects of his mind, where he thinks, turning us into centaurs and turning into a half centaur, get touched to you or whatever that was. It just
earlier
flows.
this morning, I saw fan art of you spackling worms into my butt, and me being like, and Jim being like, yeah.
I'm really glad I work for Raw Fury and not like Activision.
Well,
It's cool, but like,
I always think of Ice
Activision
Cube.
PR. What?
I always think of Ice Cube. Like, he used to sing about.
Okay.
He would sing about having sex with ladies and bathrooms and like putting lobster on them and eating lobster off their backs and guns and whatnot. Now he's in Are We Done Yet? And people are just like, oh, he's just my dad now. So if you make the right leaps through a career, you'll just look back on your spackling worms into my butt era as Ice Cube's NWA era. And no one will judge you for it.
Yeah, that's Destructoid, the NWA era. That's all it is.
I think so. Yeah. So what you do now with Raw Fury at the community, how much is it about actively trying to engage new people to see we're your friends? If you want someone to curate games for you, you can listen to us, and we're going to speak in a voice that you relate with and you feel is genuine. And how much of it is making the community that's already there continue to engage them and keep the relationship between Raw Fury and your players going?
It's a good mix of it, actually. At least with the first part you're bringing up, trying to pull in people. That's a combination of what I'm doing with David, since he's in charge of the marketing, and I'm in charge of the community stuff. We're working together to figure out the best ways to kind of approach this, and we're also still trying to find our own identity and our own voice. And when I was starting with Raw Fury, I noticed like one of the things I did was create this like kind of like this mascot-y character, this smiley face thing, and that was a good sign, seeing that they had a good idea of how to kind of just appeal to a wider audience. A lot of the appeal of Destructoid back in the day was that there's this guy in a robot helmet. There's this green robot on the front page. Why is there a green robot? No gaming sites still to this day, I guess for the most part, don't have like a proper mascot.
Mm-hmm.
And it does so much for people to have something to latch onto, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Raw Fury understands that. So that was, I went through a lot actually to kind of find the right home in the year between leaving Destructoid and finally finding this place. And a lot of their philosophies, a lot of their ideologies like lined up with what I was interested in. And it also helps that they're kind of a fresh business. So I get to be more or less on the ground level to kind of help it grow and prosper. And that's definitely been a challenge to kind of understand and figure out a good voice for us. And, there's a lot of discussions around that. I know we want to redesign a few things with our approach. And then on the other half, it's kind of like a daily thing to just make sure I'm going wherever the community is. We don't have forums proper. I don't think we need forums proper. Forums are kind of this antiquated idea at this point. The only places you really need to go to are the official avenues. So like Steam forums, I guess pretty soon here, the Xbox forums, Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, those kind of avenues, right? And a lot of that is going there at least, a couple times a day, checking in, make sure everything's going smoothly, hanging out with the audience, engaging them, letting them know what we're trying to do. I like how open we are for the most part. Like, we're not trying to like keep an air of mystery going on. We're very just blunt about what we're trying to do. A lot of the reasons I feel like gaming companies in general like to be quiet is because they have this like idea in their minds where we have to do all these things on this specific date so we can maximize our returns and our audience engagements and everything. It's like, That's why leaks happens, because you sit on things too long and people will find out anyways, because people are so into whatever your product is, they're going to find ways to get that information and they're going to spoil it. So there goes your grandmaster plan, which you saw happen a ton at E3, especially with Microsoft stuff, right? But no, for me, it's just making sure that the audience is satisfied with whatever we're doing, letting them know they're being heard. So far, it hasn't been a total nightmare in that all the games are single-player stuff. Once we actually start doing multiplayer stuff, I expect that to be like, I'm going to lose sleep because I want to be as engaged as possible, because there's going to be so many aspects to that, right? I think the only, I've loved every aspect of this job so far, but the only downside I've had is when the audience has an issue with the game. And the game is crashing, there's something broken with the game, and it feels so paralyzing because there's nothing I can do specifically to help them out. I will get the developer to know about what's going on, right? But in this particular case, Thomas is focused on getting this expansion out there. We're all focused on getting the expansion out there, so we can't do much with the original version of the game until we finally are able to release it. So until then, it's like, I am so sorry. We will fix this as soon as we can, but there's nothing I could do, and that just sucks. I never really had to face that before, right? At Destructoid, it's like, we don't have that issue. The site's down, whatever. We'll get it fixed in a couple of hours, and it'll be back up. Until then, we'll just hang out. I don't know, in a Google Hangout we'll make up, or Facebook or something. But now it's like, damn, what? I don't know. Here's a random YouTube video. Go look. Because they're buying a product. They're paying $10 for a game, and there's something wrong with it, and it just sucks. And we're trying everything we can to make sure they're not having that issue. But that's the beauty of PC gaming as well. A game will work fine on my MacBook, and then I'll put it over on the PC. Games in general, and for some reason something's off, and it's not necessarily just the game. It could be the video card, it could be the graphics. It could be a million billion different things, and it's hard to kind of anticipate that.
That said, the fact that you are that emotionally invested, what I was saying before about how people want to engage with you, that you mean something to people, and they'll come at you with aggression and affection at the same time. I have to guess that part of it's because you really know how to relate to people who really love video games. I really love video games, but I'm off in artsy fartsy museum world half the time now. I'm just the fine design work of Jonathan Blow's Witness, blah blah blah. That's not. I'm not speaking to the people who are just let's have some fun. Let's get together and just do whatever and be free of any sort of thought and just get into these games because it's a visceral, exciting experience. I get that sometimes, but not as much as I'd like. You totally get it. You totally get the feelings, Hamza. I'm a heady, thinky guy, whatever, and I'm a nice guy. I'm a smiling guy. I like people. You get dude, I'm fucking pissed. This game doesn't work. I want my money back right now. When you hear that, you're like, dude, I know exactly how you feel, and I'm pissed too now, and I want to just give you your money back, but I can't. So it's I'll show you some cat videos. I don't know. I want to make you feel better because I know exactly how you feel. You understand the true emotional range of experiences that people who love video games go through. You still got it.
I guess it's just this empathic thing I've developed ever since I was working at the game store, right? I would have to deal with people face to face. Getting in my face about a bad deal they got or a broken game or something wrong, and it's all right, well, let's try to fix this, and if we can, I guess here's your fucking money back. But
but you're relating with them. So empathy's awesome. I love empathy, and you've got it, don't get me wrong, but empathy is being able to step into the shoes of somebody very different than you and feel along with their feelings. You more you are them and they are you. You know exactly how they feel, not only because you're empathetic, but because you actually are like them. And that is such a incredible skill to be able to have and keep for as long as you've got. So happy for you, Hamza.
Shut up, John.
Really, it's true, Hamza. I'm so happy about you. I wanted to put aside a good amount of time for questions. Sure. So I'm going to look at some questions. In the meantime, if you could tell us about Kingdom and Goner while I pick some out from the Twitter feed.
Sure. I'll go into sales horror mode.
Yeah, please do.
was our first game that we released. It's out on PC platform, so Mac and Linux and Windows, and that is a minimalistic strategy game. Very beautiful graphics. It's all pixelated, kind of in the same way Sword and Sorcerer was, but like there's more colors, more things happening on the screen, and it's very it breaks down the strategy genre. So you are a king or a queen. You have to build up a kingdom, and you have to build up your following, as in people, and also your defenses, gather resources. And during the evening times, you're doing all this in the daytime. During the evening times, you are fending off against attacks that are happening at your kingdom. And the goal of the current version of the game is that you have to destroy all the enemy encampments before they destroy your base and steal your crown. We're releasing Kingdom New Lands in the next few weeks, and it's going to change a lot of the core principles of the game. And now it's not just about destroying the enemies; it's about building a boat. I was actually hesitant. I forgot if we talked about this, but of course we did, because we showed it off at E3. It was playable at E3 and everything. And like the new goal of the game is that you have to build a boat, and this adds a lot more challenges because it requires a lot of resources. But we're also adding a ton of new factors, including like a winter effect. So it starts snowing in your kingdom. When it starts snowing, you can't farm anymore. You can't hunt anymore because everything is gone. Snow's killed off everything. So you need to fight against that while also fighting against the enemies, and then eventually you will build your boat and go off to a new land, and you'll do that a few more times before you like conquer all the lands that are available to you. And that's new version of the game is coming out soon. And our next game is called Goner. We talked about that briefly before. It is a roguelite action platformer. You play this character called Ik. It is this little creature, and its best friend Sally is sad. It's this giant land-bound whale, and you are trying to cheer up your friend Sally. So you have to go through all these levels, kill everything, and collect these special trinkets to present to Sally to cheer her up. And the whole like crux of the game is like it's roguelike in that like you die on a level, you start all over again, right? And you get different guns, and you also get different heads. And
you lose your head.
You lose your head. You get different heads, and your heads will give you different abilities. So one's a triple jump, one's takes extra damage. There's a bunch of other ones. Actually, I've had the secret plot of whenever I got a chance to actually work in game development, I was going to get every game I work on have something with a shark in it. And Ditto's obliged me, and there's like a shark backpack that gives you special abilities in the game.
Cool.
Or a shark fin backpack, rather, yeah.
So is that going to happen? Is Matt
Yes,
putting
it is. It is.
Oh, cool.
And everything.
That is very exciting.
Yeah, we're gonna have a beta soon. I should get you in that.
I would love those things.
All right.
We're colluding though, Hamza. Sorry.
Well, you can't review it. You're banned from reviewing it, so because
I think that's true. And I barely write reviews anymore. Anywho, we have some questions on Twitter. We have a question from the chat as well. From License to Bill, someone who remembers us from Podtoid, I think. Says, Jonathan Holmes, can you pitch us one final GameCube commercial? Were you on the show, Podtoid, Hamza, during those GameCube commercials?
I don't remember.
There's this weird period on Podtoid where it was like me and Jim. I was always dead tired because I was at a high-stress job, drove home in rush hour traffic, got in, like set up the computer, and it would just be Jim being like, I've been waiting for you. We're going on a boat to the moon, and we're gonna make love there. And I'm like, okay, sure. Like I didn't know how to keep up with that man's imagination when I was that dead tired. But I did sometimes try to come equipped with ideas. Like I used to have impassioned, unasked for, sudden GameCube commercial concepts, like a kid in a hot air balloon soaring through the sky, and you hear up and away in my beautiful balloon. And all of a sudden you just start getting pelted with GameCubes like hail. And then you just hear, buy GameCube! The kid's like beaten up and crippled in the hot air balloon because of the GameCubes. I thought it would get people to want to buy them. I don't know if I can think of one off the top of my head. Those are inspiration, and inspiration can't be forced a lot of the time. Do you have any cool GameCube commercial ideas, Hamza?
No, God, no.
There's another one. I'll tell you more. I'll just do that. There was, I think it was a kid eating cornflakes, and then the camera zooms into his disgusting mouth that's got like milk and cornflake bits in there, and there's a farmer in there playing a banjo and amongst cornfields on his teeth, and he's just like, "Get a GameCube." You think it would have worked? Would you bought a GameCube for that, Hamza?
No.
It's okay, I can take it. A question we have from Ragnar, who is sandwich_man123 on Twitter, asks, how were you first introduced to video games? Let's start with you, Hamza. How did that happen?
I guess one of my earliest memories is that I remember getting Game Boy with Tetris. And just sitting on the couch in our living room playing that.
Tetris.
Like nothing else existed. Yeah.
Not much of a power fantasy, that Tetris. Not what people consider a kid's game or always necessarily an exciting game, but you were into it.
I think it's just the constant. Like my dad got it to me as a gift from one of his trips when he came back home, and I was like, "All right, what is this? Oh, I could do things. I can make things happen in this game." And I think just the fact that I don't know, I was able to accomplish something in that game.
Do you remember how old you were?
I don't know. I was born in '85, and it was probably the '90s, 5, 6.
So you were like 5 or 6, yeah.
Yeah.
I think at that age, games can show us that we have the power to make decisions that actually affect something in a way that most kids aren't used to. And then that feeling can carry on to when you start working in the game industry, and you're like, I'm going to put a shark fin in a game. It's going to affect like thousands of people, maybe millions if the game takes off like Binding of Isaac did or whatever. That my idea is going to affect those people. My decision meant something. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, no, it was just figuring out strategies around how to make all the lines disappear, especially when you're getting later in the game. Everything's going faster, and the goal is to get that giant rocket at the end. The better you do, the better the rocket you get.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah,
the GameCube
it's
one.
very vivid in my mind.
The rocket taking off.
Yeah.
Huh.
I mean, just that game in general. Like, I remember that living room very vividly and where I lived at the time. And it's all this connection around the games. And then Super Mario World was also another one for me.
Super Nintendo,
the best game system ever. I love and adored that game. And I remember it being a comfort for me because around that time, whenever I had it, I got into an accident on the playground and ruptured my spleen.
Whoa.
And I had to have my spleen removed. So I am spleenless.
I didn't know that about you. No spleen. Much less bile that way. That's where the bile is kept.
Yeah.
Spleen.
Instead, it all comes out of my mouth now.
Oh, yo. Yeah. Very scary for a kid, though, to have a surgery. It makes you feel weird. It makes you feel afraid for the unknown. You think, is this going to be my first of many surgeries? Am I just going to be a surgery guy now?
I don't think that. I just think, what is wrong with me? Why can't I walk or stand up? Why does everything hurt? And I think I was in third or fourth grade at the time. And then, surgery happens and I get back, and Mario is a good distraction for a long, long time.
Yeah, takes you right out of your actual reality. So when I think escapism for surgery patients is a huge thing, and I think that's
why games are so important to me, because of the escapism mechanism it provides.
Yeah, and then you've escaped into them, and they're like your whole life now.
Yeah, so it's a weird opposite end there, because I talked about this briefly, but last year, I don't know how in depth I want to get with this, but I just lost it, right? Like, I lost my way. And part of that was also just losing my interest in games, in the whole concept of it. And I remember I was looking forward to Phantom Pain, Metal Gear, for a long, long time. So that finally kind of helped me get out of that funk, and that I not hated, but I just didn't care about games anymore.
Yeah.
But getting into that, and just even how broken and unfinished that game was, it was still a lot to it. A lot of interesting mechanics, a lot of interesting concepts that no game has really done ever. And that just kind of reinvigorated my love and interest in everything, and Undertale. And This year, I just started playing Hyperlight Drifter a couple weeks ago, finally. And within the first 30 minutes, I'm like, wow, this is my Undertale for this year. This is like what makes games for me. Like this is why I love games.
Yeah, awesome. And it's not surprising. You were literally submerged in games for 10 years. People are going to lose their taste for something that they're literally swimming in deep under for years and years and years. And it didn't take much of a break for you to get that taste back, which is good to hear. It really is burned into you at this point, I think.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything else I can do.
That's what Ron Gilbert was telling me the other day, the creator of Monkey Island. I was like, you didn't want to like do something else? He's like, I can't do anything else. I just have to write point and click games. Sorry. The thing.
What about you?
Oh, me?
Yeah, to the question about
yeah. I believe I was like 4, maybe younger. And it was the Atari 2600. And I was just amazed with the fact that you put in one cartridge, just the cartridge aspect. I was like, you do what? You plug that thing into that thing and stuff happens? This is like before VCRs. So this was before like you could make a device do something you wanted, let alone like PCs being commonplace. So just seeing the fact that you could stick a device into another device and then you get tanks, and then you take out that device and put in another one, and then you get Indiana Jones, which was really crude on the Atari 2600, but you could still make it out that that was a person. And before I got Pac-Man, and before I got a tank, and then later I got E.T. That alone just blew my mind. But I wasn't skilled enough at 3 to do much with video games. It was just watching people play Pac-Man and Bubble Bobble when I got older that I realized that there was so much going on in terms of mechanics, so much to think about in terms of how to inspire feelings in different ways through abstract concepts and iconographic images. Is that the right word? That's when I really loved them. And I pretty much love them in the same way then as I did now, except now that I'm older, I've gotten to know just how much these video games are reflections of the people who are making them. Like you talking about how Goner, the little guy in Goner, Ick, wants to make his big whale friend happy. Yeah. That's such a Matt thing. That's like Matt just wants to make people happy with sparkly trinkets too. So his sparkly trinkets are video games, and he works very, very hard on them. But he's all about making people feel good. That's why his games, I think, are so good, because he's so motivated to make people happy. It's his real passion. And that's why I think his games stand out. You see one of his games, it doesn't look like anybody else's, because he knows in order to make people feel something, you have to offer them something new. So he digs in deep for that. Yeah. Really excited about that Goner, in case you hadn't noticed. I think it's a very good-looking game. Did more questions happen? Let me see. None there. Richard James Cook, who makes documentaries and video games. He's making a video game that I might appear as the Toasty guy in.
I saw that.
Isn't that weird?
There's a trailer, because I think someone was showing me the game for potential something.
Oh, yeah? Who knows? We'll see how the game turns out. I do not envy Richard James Cook for having to make a fighting game. Like, that is... The standards of fighting game fans are so high, and the amount of mechanics, just throwing one mechanic off can wreck the whole thing. Even in a game like Dive Kick, you can like mess up the balance of Dive Kick when there's literally just dive and kick. But anyway, yeah, Richard James Cook asks, can you and Hamza sing It's So Hard to Say Goodbye to My Homies by Bone Thugs and Harmony? I don't know that song.
I don't know that song either.
You don't? I was sure you were going to get...
I don't know it.
Maybe we should make it up. Maybe we should know it by writing it ourselves.
I think out of everyone in this present group, you're the best singer.
Oh, I don't know about that. I'm okay. That said, I'm not sure if I've ever heard you sing, even like rock band or anything.
No, because I can't sing. You know how... like that sound cats make when they're dying?
Uh-huh. Oh, come on, Hamza. I'm sure it's more than that. Yeah, we could... What's your favorite song, Hamza? I don't know that about you.
I don't know. I don't really have a particular.
It's probably electronic dance music.
Probably.
Because then you don't have to sing it.
lyrics. Yeah. Actually, I've been listening to a lot of Metalocalypse lately. Definitely.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Didn't see that coming.
Yeah. I've been really hitting it hard with their death metal stuff right now.
Huh. I did not expect
to
that.
sing it though. So I don't want to lose my throat.
Well, I was digging around for more questions. We're getting so many nice compliments from folks. Not a ton of questions though.
What about you? You said you're going to be working on like a monthly thing now?
Oh, well, I don't know what's going to happen. So I was going to bring my son in to show you the main reason I was retiring from SUP Holmes. We did the SUP Holmes Kickstarter 2 years ago now, after the show ended on Destructoid, which you had something to do with ending it. I remember you being like, sorry, no more SUP Holmes. And I was like, oh no, well, I'll just do a Kickstarter. And you're like, cool, dude. I'm sure that'll go well. And it did. We got like money and stuff.
I wasn't being sarcastic about that part.
About what part?
You made it sound like I was being sarcastic about.
Oh no, you were never.
Okay. Right.
You have a deadpanness.
Yeah, I do.
When it's like, yeah, we have cancer shows there, and I'm like, oh no, that sucks. And you're like, yeah, I don't like it either. You can do Kickstarter. I was like, we did, and I can't remember how much money we got, but we got some, and it's kept Sinistar afloat, producing the show ever since, which has been great. So yeah, we may do another Kickstarter. We may not. We just may make stuff. But at that point, I had just gotten a dog, but that was not a big deal. And I had a cat, and I was married, and I was working 5 days a week. Now I'm working 6 days a week, wife, dog, and baby. And my son is just turning 1 next month. So I may just do son stuff. And when he gets old enough, maybe we'll do a show in 3 or 4 years. If he at 5 wants to be a video man, we'll see. So that could be fun. And I have ideas for other things. Actually, a guy named Will Brierly, who lives locally, I end up seeing him every few months. He made Soda Drinker Pro and Vivian Clark. The other day, he was like, you want to host a live show? You want to host like a live talk show like Conan, except about video games? I'm like, how do you do that? He's like, I don't know. We may just rent a baseball field and do that. I'm like,
a baseball field?
Yeah. So who knows? He made Soda Drinker Pro. Like anything could go. He's just gonna like do stuff. That Will Brierly. So nothing definitive about that, but that's one thing that could happen. Sinistar, Conrad, and I may do another show that's like NPR-ish, where we talk to one video game developer for 10 minutes and then stay on the theme, but talk to more developers and branch off from the theme as it fits their particular games or their particular interests, and then compile that into a half-hour, 40-minute podcast. None of that would be video, though. No. I don't think... I think it was you who introduced me to Ego Raptor, Hamza. I'd never heard of him, speaking of how out of touch I was and still am. Like, that's what's going to do well on YouTube. This show it did better on Twitch. The podcast has done well throughout. But in terms of video, this isn't what a lot of people want. I don't think. Do people want an hour and a half long YouTube video? Unless it's Giant Bomb, I guess. Like, you get that street cred early and you can do it. Yeah. But I'm like an established industry man now. People don't want to do that. Or do they?
At the same time, a lot of Giant Bomb's also established industry people, and they've had regular established industry people like Adam Boyd and John V. I can never say his last name.
He was on this show too. That was so fun.
Oh, really? Cool.
Yeah, the Infinity fella.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. I don't know. It's when it comes to like proper talk show kind of stuff. I guess Giant Bomb's kind of like perfected the formula, but I also think back like stuff that Revision 3 did with like Anthony Carboni.
Oh, sure.
When he had that whole talk show thing going on, and then it would last. And then everyone's tried the Destructoid show approach of like, here's the news today, and doing like a quick 3 to 5 minute video, right? Polygon tried it, and it didn't work out. Okay, Rooster Teeth tried it. I think they're still attempting it, but
it's not their biggest thing by far.
No, it's not the biggest thing.
People want comedy, and they want a reverence from them. Yeah. People don't want to see us trying to be the man. I don't think that's the opposite of what people want.
I guess the natural inclination is that when you think about video games, you think about fun. You want to engage with it because it's supposed to be about fun and entertaining you. And when it comes to serious stuff, like talking about our history of the Destructoid or promoting or something or talking analytics, whatever have you, it's not as entertaining to the mass audience. And, sure, there is a following. I mean, there's people in this YouTube chat right now hanging out. But unfortunately, that doesn't pay the bills.
Well, yeah. Luckily, I already got a job. So
Right.
I'll do this kind of stuff for funsies anyway.
Sure.
I didn't get the cash from the Kickstarter. Conrad Sinistar bought me a computer that could actually like make the show. Yeah. And sometimes it handles it, but like sometimes it doesn't. Helped me get higher speed internet just so the stream didn't suck. And that was it. That's all I took. And then I had the shirts printed that didn't say SUP Holmes on them. Ironically, they had a little cartoon of me drawn by a fella named McNyers holding an umbrella saying, "I believe in you, buddy," because I thought that was so sweet that McNyers made.
I thought you made those shirts that Linsbot created.
I don't think she ever made shirts. She made
I guess I just assumed the logo was slapped on the shirt at some point.
No, we decided against that.
Oh, okay.
That makes sense. Yeah. But yeah, we had those shirts printed. I sent out a bunch of my personal junk for the Kickstarter. Somebody just tweeted that I totally forgot I sent them this. I sent them a little Ghostwriter Mighty mug, and they keep it on their desk. Peter Schaefer. Thanks, Peter. That's awfully sweet. He was a backer of the show. So yeah, we may do another show, and I will reject taking money from it because it sucks to get paid. It makes you feel weird. I want things to be for the fun of it. All right,
but how do you make the fun happen if you're not making the money?
Well, I make money.
Here's the thing. Yeah, you got the day job and everything, but wouldn't it be awesome if this was your day job instead?
So I'm glad you asked. So my day job, for people who don't know, I work in social work, and I forget I get paid at that job because all of it is about like individual interaction, or maybe I'll do like a group therapy session with families every once in a while, mediation. But I can tell right away, like, am I doing my job for this person right? You can usually tell based on your relationship and your interaction. When I have to worry about maintaining a relationship with like thousands of people for money, I can't deal with it. I care so much about relationships with individuals. I can't have my relationship with thousands of people, which already means so much to me, even though I'm doing it for free, to then like stack, and if you screw this up, you're not going to get paid either. Like I fold. I tried it with the Destructoid show for a little bit and I loved it. It was a lot of fun. But it was a kind of stress that it's probably beyond what I could handle, on top of the responsibility to my son's stress and social work stress. So
I mean, that definitely played a factor in me leaving as well. It's like
the stress. Yeah. How do you keep thousands of people happy? Hundreds of thousands.
It was not even just that. It was more when I became the CEO, when I was directly responsible for your well-being and everyone else's on the team, and seeing how we can make this limited cash flow work, which never worked really. It killed me, man. I was losing sleep over that shit.
I bet. Yeah.
And I don't know if I was actually thinking about this the other day, leading up to this interview and everything. Like, I don't know if I ever want to be in charge of a company again. In that sense, like I'm cool with like being at a high level, but actually running something and then being directly responsible for people's well-being, livelihood, and managing that like constantly, and trying to figure out the best, new ways to bring in cash flow or whatever have you, to make sure that my people that you are my children, essentially. Like
That's right.
I need to make sure you guys can at least eat and have shelter and a roof over your head. And when you can't make that happen, or barely happen,
and you're at the top of that responsibility chain.
Yeah.
People don't realize, people think the top of the chain, they have all the power. But just like Spider-Man, the more power, the more responsibility. When you feel like it's your fault that the company is tanking, and you don't know what else you could have done differently, it's a kind of sorrow that you have to experience to know what it's like. That's why I was so excited. I remember, because I was already planning on retiring from editor-in-chief of Destructoid after I found out my wife was pregnant, which was like right after I took the job. I think it was December. She's like, I'm pregnant, so kid coming in August. I plan to retire in June anyway to give us some time for to get ready in case my son was premature or what have you. And I retired like right when Destructoid had a peak. We had like our best E3 ever, and I was like, all right, I didn't fuck it up. I quit. All right, you know, you can't blame me if it goes downhill from here. It's like,
Yeah.
right, I guess, you know, you're welcome. Thank you. Goodbye. And it was such a relief to leave on that note, knowing, and it was similar with the Destructoid show. I wasn't the head of the Destructoid show, but Tara and I were the faces of it. If it did bad. So I was so relieved when the show didn't do like way better after I left, but it didn't do way worse either. So I wasn't to blame for it falling apart, but it's not like I was completely holding it back either. It was just something that took a while to get legs, and it was after their Dragon Age Blowjobs episode that they
Which
really...
has like 2 million views because it has blowjobs in the headline. You wanna talk about just generating traffic and views and everything? Just fucking throw sexual terms into your YouTube headline, and you will. It makes no sense why that one particular video has 2 million, while you know everything else has like 5-digit views for the most part. It was that, and then that sexy Santa viral that we did.
Oh yeah, 2 million views.
Like another 2 or 3 million views right there. Yeah.
Another thing I was proud
it's a fickle
of.
Beast.
It sure is. But our videos did kind of good when I was editor-in-chief too.
So-
Jed did a really funny Splatoon video that people like. I don't know if you saw it.
Yeah,
Covered himself.
yeah, I saw that. I was really actually impressed that took off and everything. It's like those weird one-off things. But when you're trying to do something regular or serious, you know, you'll find a following, but it won't be your success factor.
You need a huge budget for lights and editing and just like handsome men and women. And then you need to stick with it for like a year and a half so people feel like they have a relationship with you. Like this show, I don't think I did like a super good job. I wish I did better. I always wish I did better.
But you know, at the same time, you're just one man.
True.
You only have so much time. You have a day job, you have your wife, your dog, your cats, your child now, which is, you know, probably a huge factor compared to everything else. And it's like, you know, we talked about long ago when SUP Holmes was still part of Destructoid proper, about figuring out better ways to engage the audience. You know, no one's gonna sit around watching us talk about an hour or whatever. But if you're able to break out key pieces, that'll bring in interest. And you did some of those, and I saw that. I was really happy you guys did that. And like, but there's a whole like beast around it. It goes beyond that. It's about engaging with the Twitter audience and Facebook, and I don't know. It's a lot of like just being active about it constantly. And that is a job in itself, and it also can just destroy you as well. Like I honestly don't know how these YouTubers and Twitch people are able to do it constantly. Because like Greg Miller, he's a fucking perfect example here. He left IGN. He started his own thing with his friends doing kind of funny, and he's on constantly from like the second he wakes up to the second he's sleeping. You know, he's getting good deals and everything. He's getting good money from it, but you have to be on top of it all the time. You have to be engaged on the social networks. You have to be doing regular stuff on YouTube. You have to be engaged on those platforms as well. And then, you know, at the same time, he's doing all these speaking engagements. He's been at Comic-Con this whole week, and he's done a bunch of hosting duties for panels and everything. And like, you know, he could do that because he's a big enough name that he himself is a good enough draw factor as well, on top of whatever the core content is. So, right, I think today he's doing a Lego Dimensions panel, right? And you know, people are gonna be there for Lego Dimensions, but at the same time, they're gonna be there for him as well. And that's a big crux of this video space. A lot of times, a lot of people who are watching PewDiePie, they probably don't give a shit about the games at all, but they're watching it for him and his appeal and everything he's doing,
and the relationship they have with him in their minds, and with the other fans of it. Just talking about what PewDiePie did together with other people who watched it is self-contagious.
And a lot of that also has to do with the fact that he will engage with people on Twitter, right? He will be talking with them, he himself. And that's a huge appeal. That's a huge factor to why these people are becoming the hot thing right now, or have been really, and are kind of like this generation's like Brad Pitts or whatever.
They are.
And a lot of that has to do because you could talk with them. There's no separation.
And the more you are able to take the time, like you're saying, some of it's just pure man hours. Like, how much did you engage with fans, specifically to engage with fans on social media? The guy who does it for 40 hours a week is going to do better than the guy who does it for 20 hours a week. It's just the numbers are going to add up, and how good you are at doing it, and just how naturally likable you are in those ways. So I'm never going to try to do that. Thank God. I'm just going to make a show that I want to make, and people end up liking it.
Maybe the Holmes of 20 years ago when he was a real world contestant.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that old Holmes.
Could have done this.
He could have.
You had the youthful energy. You had the six-pack. You had everything.
You're too kind. I could have, but I still would have screwed up because I just couldn't get excited enough about it. Yeah. I'm crackling. Well, I'm going overtime anyway, so I should probably quit the darn show.
Should I engage the audience that's happening here right now? All right, cool. Hey guys, what's going on? SUP Holmes is over. Now it's SUP Hamza. I'm taking over the show. We're doing this once a week. All we're going to talk about is my games we're putting out. So, go buy Kingdom, go pre-order Goner, go get Kathy Rain. That's a point-and-click adventure game. I didn't talk about that. Is he fixed yet?
I know, his mic's gone mute now, yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's a rough scene.
Yeah.
Oh, this has been fun.
Yeah?
Yeah, this has been fun.
Can they hear you?
Yeah, they can hear me now
cool.
as well. Just while Holmes is trying to fix everything, I want to thank everybody for going on this adventure with us for, it's been 4+ years now, and it's been a hell of a lot of fun. And I think that there's been a really interesting connection and deepening of the community that exists, especially among game developers, as a result of it. And so that's something we're really proud of. And we will, I think, work it out to get something new going in coming months. And hopefully that winds up fun. Holmes, are you back yet? Are you working? No, he can't. We can't hear you. He's totally broken his mic. This is exactly...
License the Bill said in the chat, this show ending as it should, with technical issues on Holmes' end.
It has been a long running theme, and so if you are subscribed to this channel or you're listening to this in the podcast version, keep your subscription. Anything new that we put out is going to come out through exactly the same venues you're getting it before, so just something new will hopefully be coming in the next couple of months, and that'll be fine. And oh my God, he's totally broken it.
No.
Yeah.
Oh. Hey,
A little bit.
I hear him.
Oh my God, just the tiniest bit.
Yeah. Let me jam out my gain. Yeah, I'm turning it up to the max. And I sound great, don't I? Because we're about to die. The show's about to be dead. So that's how we'll live through it. Like Conrad said, thank you so much for being with us on the show, everybody. It's meant so much to me, and nothing short of a kid could pull me away from it. And I do hope to find a way to return with Conrad, and whoever is watching and listening now who wants to come back with us when we come back with some new thing someday. Hopefully you'll be there, and maybe Hamza will be our community manager. Maybe we can throw some money at him and make that happen. Yeah, maybe Raw Fury. Let's just do a show with Raw Fury. Thanks.
Sure.
We'll do it. Thanks. Consider
Hey,
it. All
anytime.
right. Take care, everybody.
Thanks for having me. I don't know why you had me as the last guest, but here we are.
Oh yeah. I thought it didn't matter because the show's for the last time. And Hamza, of course, we were going to have you on the show. You are a major part of my life and a component in the show being made. So coming back to you is very important. You came up with a darn name for it, darn it. So yes, we did that. You can find me on Twitter at tronnuts.com. You can watch this show later on youtube.com. You can listen to it on Libsyn and iTunes. What went wrong, Conrad? Oh, I don't have my own .com yet, but it's we're starting at the .org. which isn't up yet. On Twitter, it's just at @TronNots. I'm sorry, there's no .com. It's a mistake. And I guess that's about it. Bye.
Bye.